The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
And we're back. I'm joined tonight by Jeff Capps. Good to see you, Jeff.
Good to see you guys.
Well, kind of, sort of, right? We can't see S2, but like I said, kind of, sort of. We've got our...
What the hell is that?
Right. And we've got our in-house Intel subject matter expert S2 with us as well. And for those of you new to the podcast, my name is Chris Heaven, and I'm the CEO and owner of Survival Dispatch. Before we get rolling, I just want to make a quick shout out to our sponsors, CCW Safe, Sawyer Products, Native Hydrate, and Flex Industries. When you all support those guys, they give us a small nominal amount of money that allows us to continue to pay our bills while putting all the research we do into each of these episodes. I would say on average, just going off of the past week, 200 pages of content. It goes into the briefs. And I'm not complaining about it. I love doing it, but it's definitely not a super light lift. All right. So drones, check this out, guys. This is absolutely crazy. We just get X here. So let me refresh the page so y'all can see that this is all current real-time stuff. Okay. So this is on the news stuff, essentially the Explorer tab. And the first category is for you. And when I scroll down, I'll try not to go too fast. You will notice there is not a word on drones anywhere here at all. All right, so let's move over to trending. So give everybody a chance to have a look at that, and I'll scroll down and scroll, and that's the end of the trending list. Drones are nowhere to be found there. So let's hop over to the news tab. All right, so a quick scan of everything that's there. Nothing on drones, nothing on drones, nothing on drones, nothing on drones, nothing on drones. I think you all get the picture. So basically inside of, say 24 hours, drones have completely fallen out of the headline stuff. And S2 pointed out, a lot of it's because of Rand Paul standing up against this horrendous spending bill, which now they have another one that they're proposing. But at the end of the day, what's really happening behind these drone swarms? So S2 brought up earlier in the week, and he was right on the money, that one of the reasons is there's new legislation pending, which we're going to get into tonight, to ban the use of drones by civilians, or at least restrict it tremendously versus what it is right now. The next part to it is DJI, depending on whose numbers you want to believe, owns between 70 and 90% of the drone market. And there is legislation working its way through Congress right now to ban DJI from selling drones in America. And their position on that is that they're basically doing an ET and calling home and relaying information back to China. And of course, then it doesn't just go to DJI in China, it goes to the CCP. So that's the basic premise that we're going to work off of. And we'll show you lots of content that essentially backs it up. But Chuck Schumer did a speech last night in the Senate, and it's about 16 minutes long. I'm going to play a portion of it here shortly. But he basically makes this passionate plea that we have to pass this legislation right now. The security of the nation depends on it. So at the end of the day, all of this drone stuff points squarely back to it's our government, which we said multiple times. That's why they're not shooting them down. That's why they're not interdicting them in any way whatsoever. That's why they're saying that they're safe. But in reality, they're trying to get support for these bills that are winding their ways through the legislature. And then, of course, at that point, you have to start following the money. So we reported some stuff on, gamma radiation, dirty bombs, nuclear warheads, those sort of things. There is a ton of open source intel that's been around for a while. And so we're not backtracking and saying that that's no longer a threat. That's absolutely a threat. And we've known it for many, many years. But as far as this current drone situation is concerned, this is all tied to the stuff I've already mentioned. And again, we're going to go through, we have a huge amount of stuff actually to go through tonight that'll support the position that it's our government in pursuit of getting this legislation passed, which in turn puts money where they specifically want it to go, in their own pockets and to their allies and those sort of things. But that doesn't obviate the intel that's been around for a long time with regards to dirty bombs, nuclear warheads, and simultaneous terrorist attacks across the country. So with that being said, I do want to show you something here, actually, before we go into it. So one of our very loyal followers, we'll just call him Rich, sent me this article here, and radiation detectors alerting in New York. And this was published today. You can see the date right there, December 19th, 2024. And this person who recorded this one here, this is only 16 seconds long. I'll go ahead and play it so you can get the gist of it.
Something is up, dude. I'm telling you. Right here in New York City. This should not be doing this.
So I discussed this with Mike Sterling earlier today. He can't join us tonight because he's got work-related stuff. And he had a whole bunch of questions. Has this guy ever used that detector on that route? And is it potentially picking up stuff off of cell phone towers that's normally there? Because nobody tells you that. What was it calibrated against? And a bunch of other technical stuff. So we can't swear to the veracity of that video. But again, just so that we're 100% clear, there's a lot of intel that points towards nuclear dirty bombs, warheads, and terrorist attacks using those things. But again, we're not tying that anymore to the drone situation. This is all the stuff that S2 brought up earlier. So before I turn to you guys, I'm going to play a little bit of Chuck Schumer's speech here because this sets the groundwork. So this happened last night, and then all of a sudden today, drones disappear from all the headlines, breaking news, trending stuff, etc.
Majority Leader.
In a few moments, my friend Senator Peters will offer an amendment that responds to the reports of unusual drone activity. And I thank him for his great work and leadership on this. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of this bipartisan drone legislation, which the FBI, the DHS, the FAA, and the DOD, the Department of Defense, all support. The Senate should pass our bill without delay. Our bill, among other things, explicitly authorizes state and local authorities to conduct drone detection and helps them better coordinate with federal law enforcement agencies to keep communities safe. The people in New York and New Jersey have a lot of questions, and they're not getting good enough answers. The utter confusion surrounding these drone sightings shows that the feds can't respond all on their own. They need help detecting these drones from local officials who have neither the resources nor the explicit authority to act, and the bill fixes that. We all know drones are a relatively new phenomenon. There are millions of them all over the United States. A lot of them are hobbyists, some of them are companies doing legitimate work. But the federal government just doesn't have the ability or resources. If we were to say the federal government should look at this completely, they'd be taken away from so many other important jobs. So the most logical thing to do is say, let the localities have some authority. These are law enforcement authorities. These are people we know and we trust. Now, for all we know, the bill, for all we know, the recent drone incidents are entirely benign. But the people of New York and New Jersey understandably still have questions, and they deserve answers. The problem is the widespread use of drones is relatively new in the eyes of federal law, and therefore the authority to detect drone activity near sensitive infrastructure is totally in federal jurisdiction. And that should be fixed in an appropriate way. The federal government just doesn't have the ability to go in every corner of America and see whether the drones are safe or not safe. Local law enforcement is appropriate, and they will work with the feds in working on this. The bill is about giving local officials on the ground greater flexibility and proven technology to detect and track threats in their jurisdictions. It's about giving people answers they don't now have, heard directly from authorities on the ground. If this bill becomes law, we will have better clarity in the future. So I yield to my friend from Michigan who's worked hard.
All right, so we'll stop it there. S2, I'm going to go to you first. And the gist of what Chuck Schumer was saying there is that we need to pass these laws to restrict the usage of drones because they say so, essentially.
How do I put this? There's been some new developments that have come up that I've been passing around for about the last week. It's really kind of a complicated web when you look at it, because right now it's actually illegal to shoot down a drone. It's unlawful to shoot down a drone. So there's, in October 2022, Biden signed the Advanced Air Mobility Coordination and Leadership Act. It was Public Law number 117203. And he directed the Secretary of Transportation to establish the Advanced Air Mobility Interworking Group that was tasked with fostering innovation, ensuring safety, and blah, 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 blah. What it all boils down to is this interagency working group is comprised of 19 different agencies, three-letter agencies. We've got the Council of Economic Advisors. Some of the big ones in here, we got the Department of Defense, Department of Education, Department of Energy, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, Department of State. We go down into the Office of National Cyber Director. There's 19 different agencies. NASA's even involved in this interagency working group. And what this all boils down to is money. It's pure and simple money. There are private companies out there that are manufacturing passenger drones already. There's one in particular, or there's a few of them in particular that have already passed the FAA regulations that would allow them to be commercially used as taxis. In other words, carrying people around. And if I had to go dollars to donuts on this, I would say it's probably time to start looking at our politicians' portfolios again, because chances are very good that some of our politicians are highly invested in this. And the whole reason why they don't want the drones up in the air is because they could pose a threat. Basically, this will allow the politicians to have control, or the private corporations to have control of your mobility. That's why they've been trying so hard to do away with fossil fuels so that we can't have cars on the ground. So
Yeah.
you ever seen the movie? What's the one I'm thinking about? I want to say Elysium, but it's Elysium. Movie with Elysium. It's the same kind of deal. The elites want control of the airspace, and they want us to be on foot.
Yeah, well, I mean, the drones are a force multiplier. We all know that. And, they've tried to shut it down, like Pete Buttplug, wanted people to not fly drones in Western North Carolina during the Hurricane Helene relief, which is still ongoing, because it made them look bad and allowed people to see exactly what's going on out there. So it's the reasons you mentioned, but it's also a control thing for them as far as optics are concerned. There's money tied to it. At the end of the day, we've got a whole bunch of information to share that all goes towards the same thing. It's our government, which we've been saying since day one. They own the drones. This is a show, a false flag, whatever you want to call it, to get legislation passed, to funnel money to their buddies, which means to themselves as well, and also have complete control over all of this. You do have some other concerns as well, like DJI, Chinese owned. 70 to 90% of the drones in America are from DJI. There's some reports that that data is being relayed back to China. DJI has been described by some people as TikTok on steroids as far as funneling our information back to the CCP. So Jeff Capps, what are your thoughts on just the developments over the course of the past 24 hours?
Well, first of all, I think if Schumer's mouth is moving, then it's probably not true. Okay. I just, I have a hard time trusting him, his tone, his inflection, how he talks, how much he talks. But you have to consider two things. And that is, one of them, they're either trying to exploit something or they're trying to hide something.
Yeah.
And both of those things are entirely possible with that technology. I think that when we start looking at them testing the waters of what's going on here, that they're going to see what they can get away with, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And then when they get called out by people like us or the public, they're going to have to take a back step. But the problem is they're beholden to their masters, and those are the ones that feed them the money. So when we talked about that earlier, you say, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. These guys are not the benevolent, wonderful examples of how we would want to purport ourselves in society. There's two sides of a coin there, and I don't really like the bottom side, to be honest with you. And even people like Ted Cruz, who, I would literally hold this guy in high esteem for some of the things that he's done, but I just can't help but think there's another side to that. And when you start getting into that, I'm thinking, watch out for that banana peel, because that's a pretty nice fall you could take. And then when that happens, then we have to start this whole process over again.
So there's an article here. I don't know if y'all had a chance to go through the brief in detail. There's a lot in it tonight, but this is from a show called China in Focus Broadcast, and I'll just read this part of the screen, assuming that people on phones, this is probably a little bit too small for them to read. DJI, a Chinese military company, now dominates the U.S. drone market. Some lawmakers have called it TikTok with wings, fearing the devices DJI makes could act as eyes in the sky for Beijing. A defense bill could change its massive market share. Mysterious drone sightings have left the U.S. wanting answers. If the aircraft are operated by adversaries, why are they outfitted with lights? And could authorities choose to shoot one down? An expert explains. A German-Canadian man who's also a resident of China receives a 2-year prison sentence. He and other Chinese citizens worked together to steal electric car battery technology from Tesla. Oh, that's a separate story. I'm reading that thinking to myself, what the hell's that got to do with the drones? Anyway, so I haven't played this video because I ran out of time, but we'll see what the beginning of it has to say before we move on.
Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story: DJI, a Chinese military company, now dominates the U.S. drone market. Lawmakers call it TikTok with wings, fearing the devices it makes could act as eyes in the sky for Beijing. A massive defense bill could change that. Mysterious drone sightings leaving the U.S. public wanting answers. If the aircraft are operated by adversaries, why are they outfitted with lights? And could authorities choose to shoot one down? An expert explains.
You're going to be violating a lot of laws if you just randomly start shooting down drones.
A 2-year prison sentence for a German-Canadian man who's also a resident of China.
So I'm going to stop that there because it goes into another story. I'll share this one here. So for all the skeptics, here is a Wall Street Journal article featuring U.S. first responders who testify to the superiority of drones made by DJI, a PRC-based company that controls 70 to 90% of the U.S. commercial drone market. The time has come for a reality check. So we'll move on to this next one, and then I'm going to come back to US too. So the drone market is unlike any other advanced technology sector. Companies based in China and subsidized by the Chinese government control 90% of the consumer drone market, 70% or more of the enterprise market, and 92% of the state and local first responder market. Chinese company DJI holds the vast majority of that market share. that did not happen by accident. In 2015, China launched Made in China 2025, a 10-year whole of society effort to invest in key industries, including drones, to ensure China's world leadership and market dominance. To achieve its industrial policy goals, China subsidizes its domestic drone companies and supports dumping products at prices that disadvantage U.S. companies. Drone companies based in China also present security risks. Those companies are legally obligated to comply with requests for information from the Chinese government, and the Chinese government enlists domestic companies in military-civil fusion efforts to ensure the military has access to advanced technology and information. Along those lines, in 2022, the U.S. Defense Department added DJI to the list of Chinese military companies operating in the United States. Tailored U.S. government action is necessary to foster a fair and even playing field, correcting market imbalances caused by Chinese government subsidies and product dumping. This paper proposes calibrated demand and supply side measures designed to promote competition, restore fairness, and propel American leadership in the new area of aviation. So, in a nutshell, I think it's probably legit, the concerns over DJI relaying information back to the Chinese from the gazillion drones that we now have in the country. But just like S2 said, follow the money. Right now, there's an unfair advantage for DJI because they're subsidized by the Chinese government. So if these bills get passed and DJI is no longer allowed in the country, or they have super high tariffs on them, then more American drones will be sold to do all sorts of different things like S2 mentioned. And it would be funny how, a member of Congress who makes $173,000 a year all of a sudden has a portfolio worth $250 million, right? S2, do you want to tack on to that?
Well, I don't know where they're getting their information from about information going back to China on this. For starters, the eyes in the sky that they claim are the DJI drones. People are buying the DJI air units and they're installing them on their own built drones. I personally use analog. I don't use the DJI just because I think it has a better performance. The image clarity may not be as great as DJI, but it gets the job done. As far as them maybe sniffing packets coming off of these drones, guess what? Every single drone that flies in the air that is a hobbyist drone puts out packets. Oh, there's our troll again.
Yeah. Imagine
but
that.
Every single one of them puts out packets. They're called telemetry packets. And it's what you use to get your GPS coordinates, the status of the components on the drone, those types of things. I don't know how they would actually transmit that information unless they're going across a 2.4 gigahertz receiver line and maybe interdicting that in some way. But even still, the distance on those things, they can go up to 33 kilometers. So I don't know that the excuse that they're sniffing packets or they're transmitting stuff back to Beijing is legitimate.
Yeah. Jeff, do you want to weigh in?
Do you guys remember when Lenovo, the computer company, the government made a big deal with Lenovo, and those were nothing more than program-laden or virus-laden computers that were relaying back to places here in the United States. And I worked for a software development company for a while. I can promise you there's ways to get that data across. I know that the frequency of the points of relay. I was talking about the points of relay. I'm not saying it right, but that's exactly what it is. They can confuse signals and move things around like you could not believe, and they don't necessarily go from point A to point B to point C. It could be point G to point X to point R to point T. But the Lenovo computers were kind of a thing, and I remember looking at those computers because they were really well built. Because I'm a kind of a nerd, and I love those computers, but I refused to buy one because of what I was afraid of, and I didn't even have anything to hide. As far as drones go, I think that you cannot dismiss the fact that this information is somehow getting back at least to sales here, because we know they exist, they're here. The sales that exist with the people who are either, I don't know if you would call them fellow travelers or just Autobots, if we can make the reference to those people that are connected, and they are getting that information back. You don't have to look far to find out where some clandestine base is that we can't necessarily put our finger on. And the thing is, who's to say that, again, follow the money, that those places weren't put there as a result of some clandestine deal to make somebody a bunch of money, hence the money that's going back to some of the congressmen who, again, make $173,000 a year, and they have portfolios that are just insanely wealthy. So that's coming from a common sense, hopefully common sense country boy who the technicalities of which escape me sometimes.
All right, so next article up, this adds a little bit more to the DJI drone ban advancing in Congress, but check out the date on this, June 17th, so 5 months ago, and they have not been able to whip enough votes to pass this. So at the end of the day, just for anybody who hasn't connected all the dots here, this is a false flag as far as showing all of these drones in the sky. There are drones. It's the federal government, and that's why they're not shooting them down. That's why they're telling you that it's safe, but it's to whip up support to pass this bill called the Countering CCP Drones Act. And it's also rolled into the larger National Defense Authorization Act, which is an annual bill that funds the DOD nuclear weapons programs and other defense-related activities. So that is imminent as far as having a vote and getting it passed. And that really, if you cut through all the BS, is what it boils down to. Just like S2 said the other night ago, and I'm going to have him comment more on it right now, the vast majority of these sightings are easily explained. It's somebody flying a private drone. It's the government doing the stuff we just mentioned. It's airplanes. It's camera lenses that are out of focus. So somebody posted a video on the weekend and it showed this, what looked like an orb spinning in the sky. And it's easily reproduced by changing the focus on your camera lens and just pointing at a star that kind of looks like it's got a bit of a strobe to it. So S2, speak a little bit further to that as far as what people are actually seeing in the skies.
Well, it's like you said, they're seeing, you've got, there's 878,000 private drones that are registered with the FAA in the United States right now. So there's not millions of them. Okay. But you've also got these people out here that they have developed this confirmation bias where everything they see in the sky is a drone. So if you go out and you look up in the sky and you want to see a drone, guess what? That's what you're going to see. Yeah. And now you've got hobbyists that are out there, they're putting up their drones because they want to catch the drone in the air. You've got people that are just seeing things that aren't there. And there's also such a thing as called perception too. You know, when you look at something up in the sky, you have a perception of something that maybe if you stand there and you look at it long enough, it looks closer to you on the ground than it actually is. So that's another one of those concepts there that's falling into play with us. And like I said, about 80 to 90% of all of these that I've seen are manned aircraft that people have been taking pictures of. So it's just, people have got to start questioning everything that they're seeing and understand that if you go out looking for something, you're probably going to find it if that's what you want to see.
Yeah, well said, S2. So check this next one out. We're just add some more layers to what our theory is. And like I said in the description, pardon me, I'm like 99.99999% sure this is our government. And this is all a false flag to get the NDAA bill through, and then the drone portion of that as well. So you got to ask yourself, why would Obama's attorney general be against the government banning DJI? Well, turns out that she went to work for DJI, and over the past 7 years, right here's the key point. Over the last 7 years, the government has publicly confirmed that DJI drones are being used to collect information on critical infrastructure and pose significant risks to U.S. national security.
Former Attorney General Loretta Lynch under President Obama under fire for selling out to the CCP.
Fox News correspondent Mark Meredith has the details from D.C. Hey, Mark.
Dagan and Sean, good evening to you. Attorney General Loretta Lynch left the Justice Department the day President Trump was sworn in. Fast forward now 7 years later, she's working on behalf of a Chinese-based company that's suing both the Pentagon and top DoD officials. SZDJI Technology, it's based in China, calls itself the largest privately owned seller of consumer and commercial drones. But in 2021, DoD officials called their products a potential national security threat based off of where they're being made. The government now considers DJI a military company. The company is trying to fight that. It filed a lawsuit insisting none of its directors of its parent company or its other companies are representatives of the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP. The company is now relying on Lynch, among others, to help lift the Pentagon's ban. But some lawmakers say they're outraged she would be supporting this company. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik posting, DJI's time in the U.S. is rightfully coming to an end, and Loretta Lynch's sham lawsuit is not going to save them. Up on the Hill, lawmakers have also repeatedly raised alarms about this company and its ties to China, but experts say the Chinese government remains determined.
The Chinese government and Chinese government agents, like these companies, are able to exploit our democracy, exploit our transparency to try to drive a wedge in U.S. national security.
We reached out to the former Attorney General to see if she had any comment about this or a pushback against Congresswoman Stefanik, but we have not heard back.
All right, so here's another write-up on this. Obama's AG, Loretta Lynch's name appeared in the news cycle briefly a couple months ago. Had forgotten about it until the recent drone swarms. A little interesting due to the fact that the Pentagon wants to stop DJI drones from being used in the U.S. due to their spying capabilities. Loretta Lynch was suing the Pentagon on behalf of Chinese drone manufacturer DJI. Odd lawsuit for a former Attorney General to a POTUS, isn't it? So, Jeff, I'm going to come to you next. And how else can you explain Loretta Lynch working for DJI and working against them being banned if she's not in their, they're not in her back pocket? They have to be.
I don't know how anybody could be surprised by that. And look, that's not the only person, too. There was a time when the young lady that worked for Bush spoke fluent Russian, one of his cabinet members. She was actually, when she retired from that position and ended up working for a Chinese consulting or doing consulting for a Chinese company. There's Loretta Lynch. There's also Linda's son. She was a former chief of staff to New York Governor Kathy Hochul. There's also Rick Waters, 27-year career at the U.S. State Department. They're doing consulting work for China, and they're getting paid big dollars. And so, they bring their influence. They bring their expertise in intricacies, the areas that they function out of, to use on behalf of their money making policies to allow the Chinese companies to come in. So the laws tend to get a little bit, I think, contoured to be more favorable to those people. But in the meantime, they're getting paid big bucks. It is about the money. It's simply about the money. And I got a shirt that says "Sold, not for sale." Man, I don't know. These guys, they're shameless. It's like they don't even care if people know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a video of Matt Gaetz speaking in Congress before he stepped down. This is from last year, actually. And then I've got one more on DJI following up behind that, because they found a workaround that even if they're banned by the NDAA, they've got some funny business going on over here that will probably allow them to circumvent that. But let's hear what Matt's got to say.
Another concern I have in the cybersphere is the threat presented by these DJI drones. I've seen report after report from the Department of Homeland Security about the capabilities of these drones to be able to collect intelligence, to transmit intelligence, and ultimately to impair our cyber defense infrastructure. How do you think we ought to think about these DJI drones?
I'll step in there, and I'll tell you, I was sorely disappointed that the American Security Drones Act dropped out of the last National Defense Authorization Act. It makes no sense that the Department of Defense recognized that these drones are unacceptable in our system and removed them and replaced them at some cost. Yet other federal agencies, intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies are not being compelled to follow suit. We know that these systems can communicate back to the servers of their host company in China, and we know that those companies can be compelled by the Chinese intelligence agencies to provide information. If you'd asked me as the J3 at PACOM, what would be my dream scenario when I woke up in the morning, it would be that U.S. drones were flying up and down all Chinese critical infrastructure every night and sending photos and information back to my team so that I could easily target. Well, U.S. critical infrastructure companies are buying DJI and other Chinese drones at about 80% of market share, and they're flying up and down our pipelines, our electrical power grids, our water systems, and they have the opportunity to transmit that information. And the Chinese have the intelligence has the opportunity to request it.
And oftentimes are these DJI drones not provided to our local and state law enforcement agencies at incredibly low cost?
They are, and both Florida, as I'm sure you've experienced, in Texas, we've seen that, and in Norfolk and San Diego. And I can't imagine what a Chinese drone would detect flying in the San Diego and Norfolk areas, on a daily basis, while doing legitimate law enforcement work, but also grabbing a good picture of everyone who's at every pier.
So this is very similar to the concerns over Huawei networking equipment, essentially having proprietary closed source firmware and relaying telecommunications back to the Chinese as well. It's definitely a threat. So here's the next one here. Chinese drone company DJI has found a way to continue doing business in the U.S. ahead of a ban by Congress. DJI has already positioned itself to continue selling its drones in the United States through a startup Texas company called Anzu Robotics. If the federal government can't stop Chinese spy drones from flooding, the U.S. states must step up. So if you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch or click the link below, sign up for a free membership. The brief for tonight is free. You can get all of these links and videos and, dive deeper into it if you so want. Here's another one. This bill is seen as a swipe at citizens with drones, especially since it targets DJI Technologies, which holds 70% of the consumer market. Whether or not DJI is an actual threat, any action against them will impact the public's ability to fly drones. So number one, there are some legit security concerns that these drones are sending critical information, secure information back to the CCP. We also have American companies who've been lobbying the government to say, you need to stop DJI because they're so subsidized by the Chinese government. We can't compete. And we really can't compete with free because there are plenty of local law enforcement agencies that have been given demo units for free and then big discounts when they buy additional ones above and beyond that. So you've got a couple things going on there. Then you also, like I mentioned, you have this concern where law enforcement at all levels and federal government in particular doesn't want all of us having drones because then we can actually see what's going on. They want to control the air, and you can think of that both in terms of what's being broadcast as well as what is actually physically in the air. So I want to share one more thing here, and then I'm going to come to you, S2. So the drone mystery. DJI drones contain geofencing software, disabling the drone if and when near government installation. What that doesn't say is that the Chinese have that power. We don't have that power. In my opinion, it is highly likely this software also activates if near a U.S. government drone. I don't believe that part. The UFO drones must be U.S. government. So really the reason I pulled this up, you're going to see how this drone won't take off, is that with a simple update or a backdoor into the software, it's not open source, so nobody can lay eyes on the software to determine if there's backdoors or not. They can disable drones and enable them as they so choose. So short video.
My drone does not want to go up with these things around.
Battery's dead?
There's no way the battery's dead. It's fully charged.
It's 0. It won't let me.
What is going on? Okay, these are fully charged batteries. It's 2 batteries that have died within seconds, and the drone went up and like a couple feet off the table, and then came right back down. It's the craziest thing. They will not fly. Like it won't fly. What the fuck?
All right, last one, and then I'm coming to you, S2. Check this out. Consumer drones, such as those from DJI, come with altitude limits and geofencing features that block flights in restricted areas like Washington, D.C., military bases, and airports. Custom firmware and hacks have recently surfaced, enabling users to bypass these restrictions. This is a two-way deal, right? So you got the ability of people here that can hack the drones quite easily to fly over whatever locations they want. Hezbollah would probably never do anything like that, even though they're experts in drone swarm technology, right? And if it can be done that easily by people here who are hacking the code, how easy is it for the Chinese government to control them? As to speak to what the holder of the keys, what the holder of the software is capable of doing with these things.
Anything. If they have maps that they've loaded in, geographic maps that's loaded into this, one could also assume, I've never played with a DJI, but I know some of the drones that I have are capable, and they're not even, doesn't even have their proprietary software on it. I'm capable of flying autonomous missions with these things, and I have no height restriction on mine.
Interesting.
But I'll put it to you this way. If there is an electronic device out there that is an electronic device and it has software in it, I guarantee you there's somebody in our country that can hack it and can modify it. I don't care how proprietary it is. There are workarounds to anything that's electronic. Anything that's electronic is hackable.
100%. Well said, for sure. All right, so let me see. Here's another one. So as S2's been saying, and me to a lesser extent, but almost all of these sightings are quite easily explained. It's not really hard to explain many of them. So there was a fuss, I don't know if y'all recall this, over some of the drones seen spraying something, right? Well, these are the DJI agricultural drones. Drone spraying that are ready and available for agriculture. The DJI Agris T50 standard bundle has everything you need to start flying today. Spray up to 50 acres an hour at 2 gallons per acre and up to 5 gallons per acre while maintaining a 36-foot swath. The T50 has dual radars, which can handle steep hillsides up to 50 degrees at 32 feet per second flight speed. Faster pumps and drip-proof nozzles make the T50 the best AG spray drone yet. So S2, do you have any insight into these agricultural ones? I have a little bit, but not a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen these things. These things will carry an IBC tote. Some of these things are just massive.
Holy crap!
Yeah,
we got 11-second video. Let's play this and then carry on. I didn't realize it could carry something of that size. That's freaking crazy. So how much fentanyl, anthrax, or other bad things could be distributed in that manner? That's too.
Just about anything. I mean, even acid for that matter.
Yeah. And actually, Oki Khan, there's nothing to spray this time of the year. Good observation. Great
well,
observation.
what they said they were seeing the drones spraying something. That's not what was going on there. That was lights being directed up from the ground to the drones.
Yeah, you're right, actually, on the one that went pretty viral, but people ran with it with the misinformation and said, oh, the drones are spraying stuff all over the place. They must be, enemy drones or something. They're not hard to procure, I guess, is basically the bottom line to it.
War of the Worlds.
Yeah, very much. So I've got another one queued up here, and then I'm coming to you, Jeff, on this. So has anyone noticed that the police on the ground searching for these so-called UFOs are using DJI M300? And it's, you can see it in this video at 3 minutes and 14 seconds. We may not play all of that, but again, you can get it in our brief for free. Let me remind you, the government has already banned DJI for official use, calling it a national security threat. If it's a security risk, why the hell are we relying on Chinese tech to protect ourselves? And here's the bigger joke. Most of our phones are made in China, but no one's banning those. This is the kind of hypocrisy Americans are sick of. The government picks and chooses what to ban while still using it when it suits them. And that's the part that I'm really trying to drive home, is the authorities, especially FEMA, were incredibly embarrassed when people started flying drones in East Tennessee and West North Carolina, showing the devastation and the lack of assistance from FEMA. And they want to nip that in the bud. They don't want anybody to have that information at their fingertips, which is one of the big reasons that they're working on banning it through our drones through NDAA. And let's see, here's the reality. The drone invasion is still unexplained. Well, I would say not true. And this was posted 3 days ago. I would say unequivocally at this point in time, we can conclude these are government-owned drones. That's why they're saying they won't harm us. That's why they're not shooting them down. They've managed to whip everybody up into this frenzy to agree, have public support for the NDAA and banning the drones, which puts the power back in the government's hands, as well as the money in their pockets by keeping DJI out of the country. So, Jeff, any comments on that angle? You're on mute, Jeff.
Just to comment on a minute ago, if a signal can be sent from a station to a drone, like the control panel to a drone, it can be intercepted. That's just a fact. And the people that write these programs are slick. And the hackers are slick. I have a friend who is a what do you call it? A legitimate hacker. That's not the exact word.
Ethical hacker.
Ethical hacker. Yes, sir. Thank you. And he has some opinions about some of these things. But if you also recall here, not too long ago, and I assume they're still doing it, was that I have a friend also that's a roofer. Well, he's not going to get on a ladder on top of a house in the middle of winter to inspect it by putting a double ladder up and climbing up on top of that house when he can just take a drone and do it. But they have quite the charge. The government has its hand in that by granting a license to someone to actually use those drones in that capacity. I have seen a gentleman that used to live next door to me, when the drones first started getting big, let one go up and it got away. He never saw it again, and evidently it kept on going. But who's to say that signal could have been intercepted by someone who was looking for a drone and maybe was really smart, and they just hacked it right out of his possession. I just think there's too many unknowns here. Like you would like to think that for a purpose, and they're good, and I'm sure there's some good uses for them. But Chris, I don't know how many times you've made that trip up to Amarillo, but we usually go up through Tex Line through that way, and there's a lot of farming. Once you go to Dumas, north of Oklahoma, and you hang a left and you go straight in, there's a lot of agricultural land up there. And man, we see those planes coming across that road in the springtime with the fertilizer or the insecticides. And I've had thoughts about what happens if that plane is going over me, and just the overspray of the things that they're letting out or coming down on top of my truck and subsequently getting in my truck. What exactly is in all that stuff, and what could it cause? To think that drones are doing that, that's crazy. To think that they're big enough and powerful enough to do that. I'd like to think that these are not for malevolent purposes, but I just don't think you can dismiss the possibility that is the case, and they're looking for a way to take it a little deeper than it is now.
Well said, Jeff. Hey, S2, I got a question from George Green for you there. If the drones can send information home, could they be taken over for nefarious purposes and controlled remotely? So not necessarily the way that Jeff just described it as somebody hacking in, but somebody who, is utilizing, say, a backdoor.
Oh yeah, you can absolutely hack into these things. I mean, they all run on the same frequency. They run on the 2.4 gigahertz transmit frequency, which essentially is a LoRa protocol used for low power, long range communications. And it's not that hard to get into those things. If you can figure out what channel that particular drone is on that's in your area that you're trying to target, you can tune your channel right to it, and you can probably go right in and take it over.
Yeah, I appreciate your insight on that, S2. So Dano, not in the Lion's Den, Eagle View. It's a satellite map of the roof, also the whole neighborhood. So I have experience with Eagle View. It's actually not satellite, it's aerial imagery. So it's much better than satellite imagery. So they fly over specific areas, usually commercial areas, at least 4 times a year. And like he says, Dano says in the next one here, used to be accurate to 1/64th of an inch. It's incredibly high resolution stuff that they're providing. And so I just wanted to address that because we've been talking about, we're not going to talk about it much tonight, but Jeff Van Drew saying that there's this, mothership off the coast and that's the source of the drones. Tools like Eagle View, and there's a whole bunch of other ones, would quite easily show that to be false, and you don't have to have a government to access or contract for those. So I've got one more that I want to put up, and then I've got 3 of them that S2 sent, and I'll have him speak to those. But breaking, the FAA has just banned drones over large portions of New Jersey, threatening deadly force over imminent security threats. What the hell took so long? Why now? Well, I hate to say this. Nick is this. I don't know him personally, but he's pretty good. This is all theater. This is all theater, but round up the troops. We've got to ban these drones. We can't have Chinese drones in the sky. We can't use Chinese drones in the government, which is already the law. And we can't let people have these drones because they're so powerful and can be used for nefarious purposes. So you'll end up with a whole herd of people with sheep mentality. They'll say, yeah, well, we have to ban drones. We can't have drones anymore. And unfortunately, it looks like he took that one hook, line, and sinker as well. So again, we keep saying, follow the money, follow the money. Advanced air mobility air taxis. I'm just going to spin them up quickly here, S2, and then I'll go back to the first one. Galaxy Unmanned Systems achieves FAA certification for 55-pound unmanned airships, ushers in new era for advanced air mobility. And about the AAMIWG, which is the Advanced Air Mobility Coordination and Leadership Act. I don't want to steal your thunder, S2, so I'm going to go back to the first one and take it away.
Yeah, I kind of already talked about that at the beginning of the show, but this is, to my point, this is Texas. Okay, this is where this company, they're using Texas airports as the model for this. There's numerous companies around the country that have been developing this technology. It's basically vertical takeoff and land aircraft, where you see the propellers on the top up there. The propellers will, when they get up into their cruising speed, the propellers will turn horizontal so that they fly like an airplane at that point, or they may just stay in that configuration. It depends on who's manufacturing them. But to my point, you're going to see a lot of stuff starting to emerge with transportation. It's like I just found out earlier this week, they've been tearing up huge swaths of land where I live and had no idea what they were doing. Well, guess what? They're putting in a new high-speed rail system. Had no idea they were doing that. They didn't announce it to anybody. It was just one day, a few weeks ago, a month ago, they started tearing up the land out here, just all of a sudden, just making a mess of everything. But to my point, this all goes back to money. What politician is sponsoring these things? Who's supporting this? We got enough people on the ground that can't drive, and you want to put these things in the air?
Right. Listen, I want to address Bob's question here and do what nefarious? Fly around until 30-minute battery dies. We're not talking, home user, retail grade drones. Many of these drones that are way more expensive have much longer battery life. But on top of that, we've covered this multiple times over the past 2 years. Hollywood developed a piece of software called Drone Swarm. It's open source. It was adopted by all kinds of terrorist groups, including the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, who in 2019 used it for one operator to control 24 drones to go in and attack the Saudi Arabian primary oil production facility and knocked out 5% of the world's oil in less than 20 minutes. Okay, so I think we're getting confused here between small residential home user drones and the bigger ones that are out there. And on top of which, the drone swarm technology allows one operator to control up to 5,000 drones. So now imagine somebody who, let's just say, has 20 of these drones, is using drone swarm technology and launches them a matter of minutes away from a football stadium, and then dumps aerosolized fentanyl, dumps aerosolized anthrax. There's intel out there that those things are in motion for Hezbollah in particular, who's been here since the 1990s, has done nothing but build up greater numbers. And then on top of that, Hezbollah and the Sinaloa cartel have been joined at the hip now for over 30 years, so much so that the Hezbollah terrorists look and sound identical, same accent as the Sinaloa cartel members. So this is not so simple to say, do what nefarious, fly around until 30-minute battery dies. You know, there's a lot more to it than that, and that's a very simplistic way of looking at things.
That's somebody that obviously hasn't seen the stuff that Ukraine's been doing with drones and the new stuff that they're coming out. They just unveiled their new optical controlled one, or fiber optic controlled drones. So, and these things, I'm gonna tell you, these drones, even the hobbyist grade ones, these things can fly up to 160 miles an hour. And if you stick you can stick an 8S battery on these things, and you can fly 33, 35 miles with these things. And imagine if you've got one flying 160 miles an hour and can get someplace in 33, and 33 miles away in a heartbeat. Imagine if we talked about people hacking drones a few minutes ago. What if somebody were to get into one of these air taxis and be able to hack a bunch of those and take control of those and add drone swarm stuff to it? And they could sit there and they can get hacked into it and wait until the right time is there and then set it loose.
Yeah, well said. So I'm going to go back just to the very last one on the AAM. Do you want to explain this a little bit with regards to moving people around, essentially?
This is the interagency working group for the AAM. That's the Advanced Air Mobility program for the DOT. Essentially, it's 19 agencies within the federal government, including DOD, NASA, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, and a whole bunch of other three-letter agencies. So they're having meetings about how to implement rules to regulate this industry.
Isn't that kind of like putting the cart before the horse?
I was thinking the fox and the hen
Well,
house.
that too as well. That's too funny. All right, so we're at the end of chapter 1. I'm just going to give a super quick summary so that anybody who joined us late understands this. Essentially, it's not hard to conclude that these drones that people are spotting in the tri-state area in particular are government-owned drones, which is why they've emphatically said that they're not going to shoot them down and that they pose no threat, when in reality, they have not had the support that they need to pass the NDAA legislation. That the current revision has stipulations in it that DJI drones are not allowed in the country because they're Chinese and they relay information back to the Chinese and they control 70 to 90% of the market, but also so individuals can't have drones and expose things like FEMA not doing their job in West North Carolina and East Tennessee. And at the end of the day, they're trying to whip up the support that they desperately need to get this, and they want to pass it before Trump gets into office as well. It's one of the many things that they're rushing. So with that being said, we have a very short message from one of our sponsors, CCW Safe. It's 30 seconds. We'll be right back.
If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
All right. So I'm not going to go into a big spiel with regards to CCW Safe tonight. Suffice it to say, we've done 2 videos with them, and it's the best coverage that you can get because it's not insurance. And insurance, there's a federal law that prevents you from being given insurance benefits if you broke the law. 95% of criminal charges are pled out by the DA, and your attorney will say, look, don't risk going to jail for decades. Take the plea deal, even though you didn't do it. The second you do that, you activate the recoupment clause in anybody who's selling you insurance on a self-defense package. And CCW Safe doesn't do that, which is why they're our number 1 choice. All right, moving along to Fannie. Did y'all hear about this today? That Fannie Willis has been disqualified from prosecuting Trump on the election interference lawsuit in Georgia. Did you catch this, Jeff?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she loses her ability to practice law, to be honest with you, because the nature of everything, if you watch that court case going down, they were some pretty nefarious stuff going on, and she was shameless about it too. So wouldn't surprise me, and certainly wouldn't hurt my feelings if they took away her ability to practice law.
They should toss her ass in prison for stealing.
Well, that too.
Well, yeah, I mean, on top of which, she was collaborating with the the Obama/Biden admin, and they were working together on trying to pin this on Trump. It's just thank goodness most of the courts are starting to do the right things now. But you're right, Jeff. She could very well lose her license to practice because she broke the rules. And I don't know how else to describe that. S2, you want to add to that?
I just said they should toss her ass in jail for embezzlement.
Yeah, with you 100%. So check this out. Man admits to running secret Chinese police station in New York City. So I want to say 2 years ago, it came to light that there were multiple Chinese police stations in Toronto in Canada. And it wasn't too long after that it was discovered that they've also been running them here in the United States and in New York City in particular. And essentially the CCP, the long arm of the CCP, wants to make sure that they control their citizens, whether they're back home in China or abroad. And now they're saying this is going on in multiple different countries. So this was interesting, though, that this guy, when he went to court, U.S. man Chen Jinping has pleaded guilty to helping operate the first known secret Chinese police station in New York's Chinatown, a facility set up early 2022 on behalf of China's Ministry of Public Security. The outpost, located above a ramen restaurant, offered basic services like renewing Chinese driver's licenses, but also assisted Beijing in identifying and targeting pro-democracy activists in the U.S. Pretty crazy stuff. Did either of you want to comment on that?
I'm trying to open up the document because I got the name of all of the guys that were stationed in it.
That's funny.
Yeah, I broke this down back in 2022. It was actually December of 2022. I broke it down. Yeah, they had a bunch of guys in there that I said on top of a ramen shop. I'm trying to get the stinking document open.
No problems. When you get it open, just holler and we'll come back to that. Now move on to the next one here. So check this out. They always get these crazy book deals. Kamala Harris set to receive a whopping $20 million from top book publishers for chance to peek into the skeletons in Biden's White House. So this is how they launder money always. So just before Obama left office, he gave a $300 million grant to Penguin Publishing. And then approximately 6 months after he left office, they gave him a $60 million book deal. And they do this all the time. And so, in other words, a politician does something for a large corporation that's in this business, the book business, and then lo and behold, they get a book deal worth many millions. Jeff, this one's yours.
So Hunter's paintings would be a great place to start. They gave him what for what? Did you see some of those paintings? I don't think Da Vinci or any of those guys have anything to worry about with regard to expertise in painting.
Well, slightly off topic, but did you catch that some of his artwork, he created them with his own feces?
That I did not know, but wow, that's news to me. I wish you hadn't have told me that, to be honest. But Kamala, listen, you said it right. It's money laundering because these people are they're circling the wagons. She did her thing, and they're going to set her up. They're going to set her up, and who knows? This may be a bid to run for something a little bigger in the future. But I can't imagine that book would be that interesting. To be honest with you, it's been. I mean, unless you just like the nasty stuff that she's known for and all the things that they've talked about in her her personal life. I can't see. I can see them giving her the money, but I don't know what they're expecting in return, other than this money's getting washed.
Yeah,
she's going to unburden them of some of their money.
That's well said.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, so check this out. So the spending bill got absolutely nuked yesterday when people found out what was in it. Vivek Ramaswamy says he read all 1,500 pages. A bunch of other people, we reported last night as well, that they had Grok look at it and break it down to a summary. So Grok is Elon's AI built into X. And you can see cat turd here, FAFO. But have a quick listen to this.
Neil, good afternoon. We're told right now in the past 30 or 40 minutes here that they might try to pull this interim spending bill off the floor and maybe just go with a clean bill. Unclear what that means for disaster assistance. Here's what happened. A post on X by Elon Musk sent shockwaves through the Capitol. House Republicans were trying to see if they have enough votes to pass the spending bill in the next hour or two. Musk posted that anyone who votes yes should lose their office in 2 years, and lawmakers are scrambling.
The tweets from Musk, has that complicated this?
Well, I mean, I think that there's always a lot of interest in what's happening up here, and
he just says a bunch of bullshit gobbledygook. But here's a visual representation: yesterday's bill versus today's bill, and there were all kinds of people melted down over this. Dan Crenshaw, he was the guy who was pushing hard for the 39% pay increase for members of Congress from 173.74 to 230 something, 243,000 actually. Pardon me. Gonna play one more quick video here, and then I'll come to you, S2.
One of their leaders, one of their generals, Elon Musk, has finally figured out that staying engaged, staying active, and staying aggressive is the key to victory. It's a beautiful thing. I posted a few days ago about the Matrix and how the spoon wasn't there. It's the same thing with these assholes. They do not have the power that they used to have, and they're just figuring it out. So applause to all of you who got active, got involved. Congratulations to every social media influencer who sets ego and self-interest aside to pull together, to advocate and promote one another so that we're all pulling in the same direction. This is it's a very, very beautiful thing. Teamwork makes the dream work. Pedal down, baby.
So that's Brendan Dilley from the Dilley meme team. And the Democrats are losing their shit because Trump finally has an answer to George Soros. And Elon's been running around Washington. We covered this last week when the whole Pete Hegseth thing was rising up, and basically told people, look, Trump has a mandate, and if you vote against Trump's nominees, I'm going to give your candidate 100,000 or 100 million, pardon me, in your next race, and we're going to primary you, sort of thing. And they caved on it. So pretty comical there. S2, you want to make any comments on Elon? Essentially, golly, I don't know what you would call it. He's like the power broker.
He is the kingmaker.
Well said. I like the way that Colin summed it up here too. I'm not sure if people have truly grasped the power of X. The House was set to pass a BS spending bill. After just a few hours of posting on X by Musk and X users, the bill was effectively killed, potentially saving the U.S. taxpayer billions of dollars. I mean, this is just amazing, this development, I feel. Otherwise, there was nobody to question this stuff in the past.
Well, the power of X is it's very powerful platform, and it's powerful for one reason and one reason only. It's a real-time intelligence collection platform. And where we're able to see this stuff coming out in real time now, we're not finding out 2 weeks later, oh yeah, by the way, the Senate just passed another bullshit bill. We're able to see it before it comes out because somebody's talking about it out there, and it gets on a trending list.
Are you ever on the right path, S2? Check this out. Breaking. Elon Musk agrees that there should be a law that all bills introduced in Congress should be digitally accessible to the public at least 7 days before any vote in Congress. I mean, it's glorious what's been happening there. By the way, I love the way you described it as a real-time intelligence machine. That's pretty awesome. So check this out. Here's this clown, Dan Goldman, and he's fuming at Elon Musk and Donald Trump over the dead omnibus bill. There was some really bad stuff in this spending bill, right? There were all kinds of giveaways to Big Pharma, which is the biggest lobby in DC. There were all kinds of additional powers for lockdowns related to, pandemics, et cetera, et cetera. All of the bad actors who are owned by, the power brokers are just having a complete meltdown. And of course, they never say anything about George Soros, but now they want to, beat up on Elon. I'm not saying Elon's perfect, but on the net out at the end, he's done a lot of good stuff, especially restoring free speech. So let's listen to Dan Goldman whine just because it's funny.
So I think it's fair to call this an 11th hour monkey wrench in the works, 2 days from shutdown. What's the calculation here by Trump and Musk?
I don't really think there is a calculation. Honestly, I think they've been Donald Trump has been asleep at the wheel. This is being negotiated intensively for weeks now. I find it hard to believe that Trump was not clued into what was going on, but probably more likely just paid no interest until his benefactor, the one who spent nearly $300 million to get him elected, the one multi-billionaire richest man on earth who has numerous federal contracts, chimed in to oppose this bill. And all of a sudden, Donald Trump scrambled to try to kill it because his puppet master said so. And this is one thing when you have Donald Trump governing by tweet, as he did in his first term, where he was in communication with Congress. But now you have Elon Musk, an unelected oligarch, governing by tweet. This is absurd. And what we have here is a bipartisan deal that Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, negotiated and brought to the House that has been scuttled by Donald Trump and Elon Musk and is putting us on the brink of a government shutdown.
Actually, I mean, I feel like saying, don't threaten us with a good time when they say stuff like that. So here's something not everybody is aware of. The Speaker of the House need not be a member of Congress. Nothing would disrupt the swamp more than electing Elon Musk. Think about it. Nothing's impossible. Not to mention the joy at seeing the collective establishment, aka Uniparty, lose their ever-loving minds. Next one, Senator Rand Paul says they need to appoint Elon Musk as the new Speaker of the House instead of Mike Johnson. Another choice that would be pretty interesting would be to put Matt Gaetz in as the Speaker of the House since he stepped down from his position. I don't think Mike Johnson survives this, and neither does Dominic here. Breaking rumors are circulating on Capitol Hill that Mike Johnson will not receive enough votes in January to remain Speaker of the House. So let's have a quick discussion on the Speaker of the House, whether it involves Matt Gaetz, Elon Musk, or not. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Well, going back to the real-time information, they gave you a day and a half to look at that, and I agree with the 7 day, at least 7 days to that. And look, people have some sense. There are some people that are actually very smart that live in the real world, not the political world, and they could discern. They could have some discernment over what's actually in that package or not. As far as Mr. Johnson, I don't know if this guy makes it through either, because there's some pretty strong people out there in the wings that are waiting to take that place, and I think they'll be more along the Gaetz line or the Elon line, and they're ferocious. And when they go to argue on the ride in to the podcast tonight, I was listening to a local news station, and Chip Roy was on, and Chip Roy was talking about I'll stand on the fence and take my whooping. He said if I have to, but I'm not signing it, and I'm not advocating it. And I think, listen, I'm a Texas boy. Like I said, I like Mr. Cruz. He's my senator. I'm not too crazy about John down south of us. Cornyn. I'm not. I like Chip Roy, but Mr. Crenshaw, I don't think he's a friend of ours, to be honest with you, in a lot of instances. So I would be totally fine with them putting Elon as the Speaker of the House, or Matt Gaetz, like you said. There's a few more out there I can think of that are just they're absolutely ferocious. They would negotiate. They certainly wouldn't go to the UFC fight with Donald Trump a week ago, or the Army-Navy game a week ago, and then come back with some bullshit like this that they're trying to sell to the American public, because that's duplicitous. That's not good, and it's not a good look for him.
Yeah, so for those people who aren't aware, Dan Crenshaw is joined at the hip with the World Economic Forum. So essentially what happened here is Klaus Schwab's father was a Nazi, but he had dual citizenship between Germany and Switzerland, and was responsible for all kinds of atrocities during World War II. But when the trials came around in Nuremberg, he wasn't there because he stayed in Switzerland and said, well, I'm a Swiss citizen, not a German.
Swedish.
Yeah. Anyway, I was thinking Sweden, Switzerland, got them combined together there.
That's good, though. He's Swedish.
Yeah, a new word. Anyway, so he ended up leaving something like $25-30 million to Klaus Schwab, his son. And so Klaus starts the World Economic Forum in 1971. He's never had a real job. He's just your, arch villain from a Bond movie. For that's the best visual I can give you. Then in the early 90s, he starts this thing called the Young Global Leaders Program, and this is where he would infect people like Justin Trudeau, Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand, all of these people, including Dan, by the way, and AOC. He's also a graduate of Klaus Schwab's Young Global Leaders Program, and he brags that he has all of these young global leaders in multiple cabinets around the world and multiple positions of power, president / prime minister. Well, Dan Crenshaw is a WEF alumni. So that's pretty much all you need to know there, number one. Number two, I hate to disagree with you, Jeff, but Chip Roy's an establishment shill. He'll say whatever he's paid to say. He's not a WEF guy like Dan Crenshaw, but he's a career politician that does the bidding of whoever gives him his marching orders. So I don't know if either one of you want to weigh in any further on WEF, Klaus Schwab, or anything like that. But if so, speak now. And
I was just going to say that I think Matt Gaetz needs to be reserved as special prosecutor. And I don't think Elon should be Speaker of the House, because then all you'll have is this rigmarole being brought out by the Democrats that there's a conflict of interest with him being Speaker of the House. And honestly, I was actually going to say my choice would be Chip Roy. I've heard the man argue on the floor. I've heard about things that he's negotiated with. He may be a paid shill, I don't know, but I like his temperament. I like his aggressiveness in going after things.
Yeah, same here. I want to respond to Bob's comment here. We had the presidency, both chambers of commerce once, and they did nothing to restore rights that were taken away bit by bit. Well, that's because Paul Ryan was the Speaker of the House, and Paul Ryan is the very epitome of a rhino, which, again, you can call them uniparty, whatever you want, but the Democrats and Republicans are all crooks. They're two different sides of the same coin. We didn't have control of shit. Now we have some control, but that's the mega movement. That is not the Republicans and not the Democrats. That's all political theater. And this red versus blue thing has all been theater and bullshit for many, many years. We didn't have control of shit thanks to Paul Ryan, and which, by the way, Mike Johnson in the past couple of days has been meeting with Paul Ryan, and there's all kinds of pictures of it. So regardless of everybody's thoughts on this spending bill, just the fact that he's still chummy with Paul Ryan is all that you need to know. The guy is part of the globalist cabal, NWO, whatever you want to call them. These are not good people. These are not people who have our interest at heart whatsoever. So, I can't stand it when people say, yeah, but Republicans, we had control. No, we didn't. We had no control of anything. It's all theater. It was the illusion of control. If we had control, they would have approved the spending for Trump's wall instead of stonewalling them. That's essentially what happened there. But let's move on to the next part. Speaking of the mass deportation, check this out. ACLU president admitting they plan to use lawfare to force local elected officials to sever relationships with the federal government and then pardon millions of illegal migrants to shield them from deportation.
When you talk to regular Americans who aren't lawyers, who aren't people who are engaged in this fight in a practical, paid to do it as part of their job kind of way, and you hear people feeling intimidated, feeling overwhelmed by the pace at which we're getting sort of alarming news about the extremism of their plans, what do you tell them about the prospects for holding line?
Well, local governments, the state attorneys general, the governors, the mayors, we have this whole plan around a firewall for freedom, we call it. The idea that these local officials can really play an important role in stopping the worst of the government abuses.
How so?
Well, for instance, when they're going to try to detain and deport all these hundreds of thousands, up to 1 million people, that's an operation that they have the legal power to do the raids, but the logistics. And they're going to need mayors and governors or city councils to either give them access to police officers or not, jails. Where are you going to house all these folks? Right? And so part of what we're doing is we're preparing executive orders and we're organizing our folks to put pressures on elected officials so they don't roll over. They should sever these relationships they have with the federal government on immigration enforcement. They should make sure that our prisons and our jails are off limits. They should begin to think about what actions they could take to pardon immigrants who have a criminal record because they drove on a suspended license. Well, let's take them out of harm's way.
They could do that now.
Let's commute.
They could do that now in the transition.
Yes. And so part of what we got to do is we got to swarm our allies in some of these places. And even in red states, you have some blue mayors. And so there's a
all I've got to say is what an asshole. I mean, it's assholes like that are screwing our country up. Jeff, you first and then S2 for any comments you have.
I got a great place to house them. How about back in Mexico and as far south as you could possibly go? How about Oaxaca, right on the border with Central America? Send them back down there and let them wait their turn. Whatever it is they've got to do, that's the best place to house them. Not here in the United States. Why should we have to subsidize that whole operation with taxpayer dollars when the whole idea behind illegal is them stepping across the border without any kind of real reason to come here?
Yeah, well, not legitimate, not coming in through the proper channels. S2, you want to tack on to that?
Yeah, I'd say send them out of the country with a do not return on their file. Just like they do at certain jobs that you might work at if you ever get fired from one. They say do not rehire. Do not return. Do not return. You entered the country illegally. You didn't self-identify. You didn't show up for your court dates. Just kick them in the ass, shut the door, and don't ever let them back in.
Well, that be considered with prejudice.
Yeah. So to play on your words, just 3 words: return to sender.
Yeah.
I want to address a couple things here. I agree with the Knight here. We either create our own party or we completely wipe out all of the establishment shills that are in the Republican Party. But it may be so messed up that it just has to be burned down. Anyway, also, this story on Biden selling the sections of the wall has been halted. It was just halted today. So, which was a dirty trick, right? They were going to be selling off huge chunks of the wall that haven't been constructed yet. And for $5 for 42-foot sections of steel. I mean, they were literally just trying to sabotage Trump's efforts going forward. All right. So the next one here is Nancy Mace. And this is with regards to a sheriff in Charleston, South Carolina, is where she's from. So There's a reason Sanctuary Sheriff Kristen Graziano refused to comply with our records request before election. Wait until you see this. Illegals who were committing murder, rape, pedos, you name it, she put back onto the streets of Charleston, and a lot of them. These people, these public officials like General Valley started the ball rolling on months ago, they have got to be held accountable in a court of law.
Not to get off topic, off the CR, but we just got documents tonight from ICE related to Charleston County's former sanctuary sheriff, Kristen Graziano, and the types of crimes the illegal aliens were committing that she was letting back out on the streets of Charleston. These are rapists, murderers, pedophiles, drug dealers, drug manufacturers. We're not talking about a little bit of Tylenol, people that are, manufacturing methamphetamines, drug dealers selling cocaine, that sort of thing. Child predators, child rapists, some of the most disgusting crimes, murderers, killers. She was letting these illegals that were committing these heinous crimes back out on the streets of Charleston for the last 4 years. No wonder she didn't want to talk about it before the election. No wonder she wouldn't give us the documents, because she was guilty as hell.
Jeff, thoughts on these officials, whether they be county or city level, law enforcement or government, working so hard against the American people, and what do we do with them?
They need to face charges. Personally, I think they need to face charges, especially in the cases where someone was hurt. First of all, if you're circumventing the law and you're a legal person and you're circumventing the law, you have a certain responsibility to your constituency. You have which, i.e., the public. And when you don't follow the laws that you swore to uphold, there should be consequences to it. And if going to jail is one of them, then it should be. And in the degree that some of those crimes have taken place as a result of those actions, they definitely should be. I would even go as far as say prison time for some of these people.
Yeah, no question.
It's total neglect of their chosen vocation and their direct responsibility with regard to the Constitution. And I mean, you got to go. You got to go.
100%. So S2, next one is yours. From Kevin Smith. So this absolute freak was just hired in my local high school. But remember, guys, to Democrats, there's nothing wrong with this guy teaching your children. There's something wrong with you if you complain about it. I mean, apologies for the fact that you'll never be able to unsee this, but we've got great therapy rates through Survival Dispatch now.
I keep telling you to stop putting stuff in front of my face I can't unsee.
If I have to see it, you have to see it.
These people are just, I don't understand. I'm having a real problem grasping what the problem is. What is this mental affliction these people have that just all of a sudden came out of the woodwork as soon as Biden took office? What happened? What switch flipped in their head that caused their right brain and their left brain to stop communicating with itself?
Well, I mean, we've harped on at length about this. Up until 2018, World Health Organization classified body dysmorphia, transgenderism as a mental illness. They cut that out because they had new marching orders. And I think to answer your question, S2, is that this installed administration has taken the shackles off and said, let her roll, without recognizing that these are mentally ill people, and then asking you and me and everybody else to participate in their sickness. That's psychopathy in my book. There's no other way to describe it. Jeff, I don't know if you want to throw any 2 cents in on this or not.
I'll just put one thing out there. If you have body dysmorphia, okay, let's take a simple example, which I'm so proud to contribute, is that if I have a physical body that I don't take care of, then all kinds of things can go wrong as a result of that, not just physical, but emotional, mental, you name it. And not to mention the way it affects the people around me. And if I have high levels of visceral fat, I'd be better off with subcutaneous fat than I would visceral fat, because all the things could happen as a result of that. I don't even know. That is such a sorry-ass explanation for what I'm looking at on that screen right now. But geez, man, I am just I don't even know what to say at this point. That's pretty terrible.
All I have to say seriously when this stuff comes up is that that's a mentally ill person who's not getting the treatment that they need, and they absolutely should not be shaping the minds of our youngins.
Or maybe they are getting treatment, but they're getting the drugs to go along with it.
Well, you're probably right in that regard. So this next one is the last one from chapter 2. So for those of you who are new and still watching, chapter 1 is whatever the thumbnail and title of the video speaks to. Chapter 2, a dozen or so headline news items that we discuss. And then chapter 3, some zany stuff that'll make you laugh, because we want to end on a funny note, and then we do the conflicted question at the end. But check this one out. 2 Dutch guys are facing 6 months in jail for projecting the phrase "White Lives Matter" on the Erasmus Bridge in Rotterdam during New Year's Eve 2 years ago. Jail time for stating "White Lives Matter." If this isn't proof of our establishment's anti-white hatred, I don't know what is. And you can see the word "white" right there on that, whatever the structure is. S2 will go to you first, and then Jeff, if you want to add anything. You're not obligated to, you don't have to, but this is insanity.
Well, I don't think it's our establishment. Establishment generally is indicative, meaning old, or legacy, as it's being called now. I think it's more the progressive movement that's anti-white, which is really kind of weird because most of them are white.
I think in the context that's being used here, establishment meaning the people in control, essentially, the cabal.
That could be, but I tend to lean more towards the progressive side of things when we're talking about things like this. And
I don't disagree. They are progressive, but it's the powers that be, right? The people.
And the progressive movement is generally run by the old guard communists that have been installed in, like, Democratic Socialists of the United States and that kind of, or USA or whatever. But yeah, you can go around and you can say Black Lives Matter or use that as a slogan, and that actually has some meaning in our social structure. What I try to get back to with a lot of people when I talk about this stuff is that we're all people, and the only way we overcome these problems that we're seeing out here in our social structure right now is to begin to get back to unification and growing our collective consciousness, so that we can help people understand that you're a person, I'm a person, I don't care what your skin color is. And that's the way we solve this problem.
Jeff, you want to tack anything on before we end this chapter?
Yeah, if you guys don't mind, there's something behind the people that are pushing this agenda, and I I'm a big fan of George Orwell, right? And in particular, one of the books that he wrote prior to going to the actual Spanish Civil War was a book called Road to Wigan Pier, and he actually supported communism at that point, and it was the Spanish War, the Spanish Civil War, that kind of turned him in a slightly different direction. But what he was mad about was, I read out of chapter 11. I was just writing with this today. I was doing a study on him. One sometimes gets the impression that the mere words socialism and communism draws toward them with magnetic force every fruit juice drinking, nudist, sandal wear, sex maniac, Quaker, natural cure quack, pacifist, and feminist in England. The mere fact that these people gravitate towards socialism is enough to scare off plenty of others who might otherwise be interested. So the people that are pushing these agendas are the ones that are telling the Jordan Petersons of the world, you have to address someone in a particular way, so you give them credence to be like they are. And that was the bill in Canada was C-16. And that's what Jordan Peterson protested so much, because it was going to be a government mandate that you speak in such a way. And I think what we've been done is we've been bullied and we've been beat up by things like this. Nobody denies the problems in society we've had in relationships with other groups of ethnicities. It's a fact. It just is. But what in the hell is the language that's being forced upon us now doing to improve the situation? It's not helping at all. It's making it worse. And so, personally, I love Indian people. I have friends in every ethnicity that I can possibly think of that I value their friendships dearly, but I will not be bullied or pushed into saying something I don't want to say, and I'll take a beating over it if I have to. But I think we have to look at the people that are behind this kind of behavior that makes you out to be a villain if you don't think exactly like they do, and then kowtow to their demands.
Yeah, 100% sound like them. It's not agree and on some stuff and disagree a little bit on this or that. You either subscribe 100% or you're a piece of shit in their mind. So that was the last story for chapter 2 tonight. Now we're going into chapter 3. And so chapter 3, just to be clear, most of it is funny, haha, but some of it's just eye-opening stuff that makes you shake your head. But Brendan Dilley today figured out the whole drone situation. Probably should have played it at the beginning, but I'll play most of it now.
Trump has a drone to pick.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment.
He knows what they are. They know what they are. And he has no idea why they're not telling the public. Because nobody wants to be the one to ruin the surprise that the McRib is now available via drone delivery expeditiously to your home. That's why no one wants to ruin this surprise, which is the McRib delivery system. Okay? And they're going to drop the McRib down with little cute McRib parachutes, and that's how they'll get delivered to your residences or your work. Imagine, for example, you're outside slaving away in New Jersey. Maybe you work on an asphalt crew, okay? And you're fixing those fucking potholes, and you're out there and you're grinding, and maybe it's cold because it's winter, and you think, my God, I wish I had a fucking McRib. And so you go on your awesome McDonald's McRib app and you say, here's my coordinates, and I would like my McRib, please. And then you're sitting there, and about 15 minutes later, fucking lo and behold, above you, the McRib has now been parachuted down to you. As you see, you didn't even have to take a lunch break. It's just dropping. And these McRib delivery drones are so accurate, they will actually land directly into your fucking hand as you're standing out at the work site. They track to your phone. It's incredible system. Okay, it's like if you had a heat-seeking missile or one of those other things where you can put in the GPS coordinates and it hits exactly that spot. That's the new McRib delivery system. It's extraordinary, and it's going to totally revolutionize the way we do fast food. But nobody wants to unveil it yet because they're beta testing it for the Super Bowl.
Brendan Dilley's absolutely crazy. So the next one here is on the New Jersey drones are now delivering encoded messages.
What is it? I don't know. Let's see. Some kind of message.
Oh my God. All right, good times. Moving on to Eye Patch McCain is cooked, and he's having a complete meltdown over this bill being squashed.
People call me terrible names. I'm not allowed to clutch my pearls when I get called terrible names. Like, how could you, Dan? How could you? How could you, Dan? Oh, they call me Eye Patch McCain.
The one, the only, Dan Crenshaw, Eye Patch McCain.
Eye Patch McCain. Eye Patch McCain.
Eye Patch McCain.
Eye Patch McCain.
Eye Patch McCain.
Eye Patch McCain.
Eye Patch McCain. He's like John McCain with an eye patch.
Eye Patch McCain. Hey, Eye Patch McCain. Eye Patch
All right. So if anybody can make fun of that, I can make fun of it since I've got a prosthetic eye. Oh shit. All right, here we go. Eye Patch McCain, aka Dan Crenshaw, is an angry little man who, despite becoming a Navy SEAL and getting elected to Congress, has never overcome his massive insecurities as a man. Watching him drunkenly expose this for the world to see on X is hysterically pathetic. So this is about 20 hours ago. Anonymous cowards like Cat Turd, which he's not anonymous, talking shit without any evidence. I'm used to it. Sorry, I was the guy fighting the wars that little bitches like you would never dare to. One of us has actually served this country and continues to, while losers like you make money on being trolls. He just had a complete and utter freaking meltdown. But anyway, moving on to the next one. So here is little Mike Johnson with his 1,500-page pork bill, and this is pretty funny.
Oh no! No!
Oh my God, too funny. All right, and this is one of the trending topics on X today. Calls to replace House Speaker amid spending bill controversy, and we've already spoke at length with regards to this, but I don't think he survives the vote in January. That's my prediction, and here's one of the big reasons why. Speaker Ryan and Speaker Johnson just emerged from the Speaker's suite together, and that was 6 days ago, December 13th. Anybody and anything who touches Paul Ryan is bad news. All right, next one here from Brendan Dilley. How I wake up every morning knowing that President Trump is coming back. Oh my God. All right, moving on to the next one here. Tom Holman says Trump's plans include removing undocumented parents whose children are U.S. citizens. We don't support U.S. citizens, but they put themselves in the position we didn't. The bottom line is having a child in this country does not make you immune from our laws. And we love Tom Holman. I've worked with Tom Holman, but I'm not going to play the full 2.5 minutes because we got another dozen to get through here.
As they are here in the country illegally. As you know, there's a lot of mixed status households in the United States. Do you plan to take both parents into custody if there are minor children in the house?
If you're in the country illegally and you got order of deportation, we're going to arrest you, we're going to detain you, we're going to remove you. If they have a U.S. citizen child, if they chose after they come to the country illegally and chose after been ordered removed to have a U.S. citizen child, and think, okay, the court order doesn't mean anything anymore, the removal order doesn't mean anything anymore, then what kind of message we send into the whole world? Go ahead and cross the border illegally, which is a crime, ignore a judge's order of deportation, but have a baby, and you're fine. If we do that, then shut down the immigration court because the orders don't mean anything anymore and take the border patrol off the border. We can't send a message to the whole world that you can violate laws of this country and not leave as required by judge and have a U.S. citizen child, you're okay. That child can stay, they can stay with a relative, they can stay with the other parent, or they can take them with them. We don't deport U.S. citizens, but they put themselves in the position. We didn't.
So she goes on to badger him, basically asking the same question over and over again. And Tom Holman just being Tom Holman, he doesn't bend on it at all. Trump border czar Tom Holman says Arizona Governor Hobbs will face jail time for refusal to comply with deportation. So that's a beautiful thing. We'd love to see that happen. These officials need to be taken to task for harboring illegals. And word is out of Canada, by the way, that the Canadian press is absolutely melting down. So City News, I believe, is from Toronto, but I went and read some of the stuff after reading about this on X, and they're completely melting, like completely. Can't believe that Trump would even remotely, say that they could be the 51st state. So anyway, moving on to the next one. How vengeful Jill Biden is, urging depressed Joe to burn the whole thing down in their final days, with Obama, Kamala, and Pelosi at the top of her naughty list. I don't know if y'all caught it. It'll probably be in tomorrow night's brief, but somebody did an expose and interviewed a whole bunch of people, White House staff members, and the lengths that they have gone to for the past 4 years to disguise his dementia. And it is just, it's unbelievable. Some of the stuff we already knew, but some of it is way beyond the pale. And here we go, as sleazy as ABC. So the story is that Stephanopoulos, speaking of meltdowns, is having a meltdown over the court deciding in Donald Trump's favor. He owes $1 million. ABC owes $15 million because he repeatedly called Trump a rapist. And Trump was not convicted of that. And he wasn't guilty of anything for that matter, but he's certainly not a rapist. And next one up, here you go. I look at the eagle as MAGA and the GOP as, the little puke down there at the bottom. And here's a piece of news that we all knew, was that Nancy Pelosi was behind January the 6th. I mean, it's nice to think of maybe her, being held accountable for that, but highly unlikely that'll happen. But the next one makes me smile. Check this out, guys. Primaries are coming. It's I don't agree with, hundreds of millions and billions of dollars being pumped into our political system and giving some people greater say than others. But if they've got George Soros and these other billionaires, which they've had for years, propping up their shitty platforms, you know what? At this particular point in time, Elon is the right guy for the job. All right, next one here. A little bit political. Why don't you watch television anymore? It doesn't pertain to me now. I'm not black, Jewish, or gay. That's a friggin' mouthful right there. I mean, I won't go deep down that rabbit hole, but there's so much crap on Netflix now that's just crap. Next one. Trust the science has never been anything other than a marketing term that means shut up and obey.
Ain't that a fact?
Yeah. Next one. That's correct, Zer. The threat of a government shutdown seems to be having the opposite effect. They're posting celebratory frog memes. That's funny. All right.
Bring back they're turning the frogs gay.
Yeah. Show me on the doll where cat turds tweet hurt you. Right here where my balls used to be. Oh my God. There's Dan Crenshaw, undocumented Democrat. Oh Lord.
He looks like a Bond villain.
Yeah, no kidding. Next one. We feel the pain that Americans are feeling because of inflation. To address this pain, we will increase our pay by 40%. It was actually 39%, and it didn't make it into today's bill, thank God. I can't believe this is a real picture. And that is a real picture. So, wow. Sorry statement on society there. Oh, this is great. So instead of getting your Christmas bonus, a donation of $54 billion has been made to Ukraine in your name. And they say a picture says 1,000 words. Well, that's it right about there. Before government regulations, after government regulations. All right, let's see here. Got the last two to pull up. This one actually is pretty funny. So this is, we're going to make fun of Kamala here on this one. No, Kamala, no White House for you. Told you the same thing yesterday. Stop trying.
No. No.
Oh my Lord, that's freaking funny.
And on TikTok too. That's just priceless.
Yeah. Oh, this is crazy, man. People don't realize how dangerous this is. Girls trying to eat the Carolina Reaper pepper, and they find out.
Oh boy.
Reaper pepper. These are the world's hottest pepper.
Dumbass.
Oh.
It's still burning? She's just sitting here drooling.
Lay back.
Holy shit.
Lay back.
Are you okay?
No.
That wasn't a good idea. Holy hell.
I'm fine. I'm gonna put it on the
Damn.
Milk.
I didn't think it hurt that bad.
This is not good. This is not fucking good.
You okay?
Don't touch your
You
face.
feeling any better?
Oh my Lord. There was a buddy of mine's dad owned a bar when we grew up, and they used to give out these t-shirts that said, "I survived a prairie fire." And it was 3 shots of tequila, well, half tequila, half hot sauce. And you had to slam all 3 of them in less than 10 seconds. And based on what I just saw there, it probably was nothing compared to that. So crazy
Ghost
stuff.
peppers are those ghost peppers are bad news, man.
Crazy stuff. So we're at the homework section of the episode. So for those of you again who are new to our podcast, the first chapter, when we get to the very end of the video, we give you some actionable things that you can do in light of whatever the thing is that we discussed. And the reason that we do that is because if you go read comments on a lot of podcasts, you'll see disenfranchised people say, all I see are talking heads. Nothing that I do matters or is going to make a difference. And that's just flat out not true. Look at all the people who took somebody with them to the polls this year who doesn't normally vote and made the election too big to rig. So everybody in the audience, it does matter what you do. And that's why we try to give people something positive to look forward to. So number 1, pay attention to what's going on in DC, on X, and truth tellers. Follow the truth tellers on X. Shit happens way faster on X than anywhere else. We've been, promoting X for a couple of years because of that since Elon took over. Write letters to your Congress reps and senators anytime something bad is being promoted by the cabal. So just think of this spending bill, and there were a lot of people, private citizens. I think I'm trying to remember her name now, Insurrection Barbie. She was the first person that I saw that dropped the 1,500-page spending bill on Grok and was able to break it down into understandable, digestible pieces where people are like, are you kidding me? And it worked. It killed the bill. Question everything promoted by legacy media and Hollywood. So had an interesting discussion with Bill Brown, former Navy SEAL, as you all know, friends of Pete Hegseth, and Teresa. So she's a PAO, and she said she's not calling the mainstream media anymore. She's calling them the legacy media because they're yesterday's news. And in reality, I think Van Jones even said it in the past week that traditional media is now the fringe and podcasters are the mainstream, if you just base that on number of views. And the last one, be skeptical and either thoroughly investigate stories on your own or stay plugged in with us on Survival Dispatch News and other truth tellers. Jeff, you first, then S2. Do you have any other suggestions based on story number 1 on the drones and this essentially show that they're putting on to get support for the NDAA bill?
So, first of all, you got me taking notes, so I'm also taking notes throughout this whole thing. And so more studying, more learning, getting better. But yeah, I think we have to stay aware of what's going on. That I think we abdicate our responsibility from an intellectual standpoint because we don't follow up. You have this in your pocket, and it's more powerful than virtually any computer in the world before the year 2000. I think if you don't follow up on these stories, you're intellectually lazy, and you should be. I don't want to say you deserve what you get. Then it's kind of the responsibility of people who are not intellectually lazy to follow up with what they say and inform everyone else, because we all have spheres of influence. But I think we need to do our due diligence, stay on point, listen to people who will, steer us in the right direction, and use our God-given brains to try to make better decisions and be better. I'm always, I've had this conversation before. I'm about, my wife gets mad at me. She says, you want to win all the time. It's not winning. Winning to me is just getting better every day. Every day I exist, every day I live, every day to try to be better than I was yesterday. And, not to oversimplify anything, but you have to have a positive attitude and not a defeatist attitude. And you got to believe that tomorrow's going to be a better day if you do what you're supposed to do and take care of your business.
Yeah,
so that's kind of that.
Well, you are what you think, right? If you think
Sure.
you're going to fail at something, you will absolutely fail at it. No ifs, ands, or buts. So, and the other word that comes to mind when you said that, Jeff, was Kaizen. The Japanese term for continuous improvement. Anybody who's worked with any Japanese companies will tell you that is heart and soul, the part of all Japanese businesses. S2, suggestions for homework on your part?
I would say start limiting your time when you're watching the news. Go out and take a walk.
Yeah.
Go out and take a walk. We've gotten through a major crisis here recently, now that Trump's coming back into office, but we are far from being done with this war.
Yeah.
And we're going to need everybody and their brain power and their collective consciousness to fight the rest of this war to get this country back on its feet again and get this ship right. So start weaning yourself off of the legacy news because it's not giving you anything but garbage. You can look at it occasionally and it will give you trigger points that you can go look at for the information like we talked about with drones. We've told the truth about all of the drone stuff that was going on, and it was only through a lot of the research that we all did that we found out and got to the heart of it before anybody else did. So get up off your butt and go out for a walk and reset your energy.
Amen.
Well said, S2. Well said. We're broadcasting tonight to 7 different channels on 6 different platforms. If y'all could mash the like button, we would appreciate that very much. Couple quick reminders. If you sign up for a free Survival Dispatch Insider account at patreon.com/Survival Dispatch, you get all of our episode briefs. And today we started a new thing in our episode briefs. We have a restricted section of news at the end. So it's stuff that we can't put on platforms like YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. All the power freaks who will not allow you to tell the truth on certain topics, like things that go on your shoulder, not being good for you, those sort of things. So that's a new addition. Expect to see more stuff going in the restricted content at the end of the brief. Again, you can download it for free on Patreon. If you sign up at $9.99 a month, you get every single brief, no matter how much work we put into it. We did a couple this week that are darn near 3 dozen pages long. You also get an invite to our Signal group. And that's just incredible real-time intel and camaraderie amongst the audience, and also people who are part of Survival Dispatch. And beyond that, I want to remind you all that if you support our sponsors, our main ones are CCW Safe, Sawyer Products for water filters, Native Hydrate for branched chain amino acids, and Flex Industries, a new one where they make some pretty badass triggers. When you support them, they're able to help support us so we can spend more time cranking out 20, 30 page briefs every day, doing these broadcasts every day, and doing the best we can to bring you some news that, you could find it on your own if you had 12 plus hours a day to do nothing but scour for the truth instead of working. Other than that, that's all I've got right now. S2, you're on deck with the conflicted question. Bring it home.
Okay. The economy crashed and your family lost their income. Jobs are hard to come by. What other options are available to you with the skills you currently have?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I'll take first stab at it. I mean, I think this speaks to individuals as opposed to like a plan for the greater good, which is typically what the conflicted questions are. But myself, I grew up in the construction industry, so I can build. I understand how to build stuff. I then ended up for decades in high tech, So everything from programming to systems and network engineering, I would be able to engage in those sort of things. And I was also a world champion powerlifter for many years, and I know a fair bit about the human body. I've been training since 1982. I've competed all the way from 181 pounds to 275. At 181, I was sub 4% body fat on a DEXA scan. So that's better than the caliper, because the caliper is subcutaneous fat, not the visceral fat, which is in your muscles and elsewhere in your body. So I'm a college dropout who's a graduate of the School of Hard Knocks, and could probably come up with a list of 10 or 20 things that I would leverage if and when the economy took that big of a shit. Jeff Caps.
Very similar. I'm in the gym business. I've spent the last 45 years training. Again, you and I've shared that story. My father told me I was going to get muscles between my ears. Well, he was actually right. And so I got in the business of building a body. I've worked in other industries. I've worked in tech. I've worked in internet. I've done construction. I've worked in a power plant, a coal-fired power plant. One of the things that I always came back to was that training was the thing that made me tick. And so whether I ever make $1 bazillion or not, it's not important. I'm rich beyond belief with the things that I've been allowed to experience. Very much like yourself, I was able to travel and represent the United States internationally in powerlifting. And I wouldn't trade a minute of where I've been if it meant not being here right now. I live in the greatest country. I have an amazing family. And now my association has been spread out to guys like you, Chris, and S2. Who could be more luckier than I am? Who could be more lucky than there's nobody. So training and working out and walking, it's a form of meditation. It's exactly what you said, S2. It allows you to relieve yourself and get yourself out of that contaminated zone for just a little while. But that makes an amazing amount of difference. And clear your thoughts, move forward. It's always about moving forward. I mean, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 3 steps back, doesn't matter. Fail forward if you have to, but believe that the day's going to get better. It's going to be better, and we're living proof of it if we just stay diligent and live in this moment.
Well said, Jeff. Regardless of whether the situation's good, bad, or otherwise, everything in life comes to an end. So when you're going through something really, really crappy, that can get you through. I'm not going to go on all the gory details, but they tried to save my vision in this eye many years ago. And I was at the eye surgeon's, and the top of my cornea came off and my eyelid was stuck behind it. And incredibly painful. The surgeon looked at it and said, "There's no time to get you into surgery. I have to stitch this up stone cold sober on the spot." And for 45 minutes with a lid speculum holding my eye open, he stitched me back together for 45 minutes. No anesthesia. My mother witnessed it. I didn't speak for about 3 days. But what gets me through that kind of stuff is telling myself this will come to an end. Everything comes to an end, good, bad, or otherwise. And that's all about living in the moment, like you said. You know, as long as you keep that in mind, you'll get through the bad times, number one. And number two, when the times are good, you got to be prepared for when it's not good, because good times will end at some point in time as well. S2, what are your thoughts?
I have a set of skills that I have been amassing for the last 30 years of my life that range anywhere from living outdoors to being in the tech industry. There are a whole number of things, but if there was no jobs out there there were no jobs out there being extended to people currently, I think probably what I would do is I would open up my own business. It would probably be multiple businesses where I could give people jobs, and that would be for the greater good of the community and other people. First and foremost, my first business would be forging knives.
Cool. Very cool. All right. So, Jeff, hang out when the software is going to kick us off stage while it plays the video, and then we'll come back for a quick AAR. But we'll be offline at that point in time. And if y'all haven't noticed, we've been scouring the internet, especially Brendan Dilley's stuff, for some fun, entertaining endings to the show so that everybody can leave with a smile on your face. Other than that, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And God bless America.